just to recap, Judith Collins, the Minister of Justice, the Minister of ACC, very senior minister in the national government, has resigned with just 3 weeks to go until the election. John Key called a special news conference today. Here are some highlights from that.
So this morning I rang Judith Collins for a discussion that ended in me accepting her resignation as a minister. New information has come to light that, in my view, means it's appropriate that I accept her resignation as a minister. An email that I've just released suggests Ms Collins may have been involved in discussions with a blogger in 2011 aimed at undermining the then director of the Serious Fraud Office. Ms Collins was the responsible minister at that time. The relationship between the Chief Executive and a Minister is vital, and it goes to the heart of a trusted and effective government. In my discussions with Ms Collins this morning, she strongly denied any suggestion of inappropriate conduct on her part. She does, however, accept that this new information raises serious questions that need to be addressed and that resigning as a minister is the honourable thing to do. I have accepted her resignation as a minister. When I spoke to Ms Collins this morning, she asked me to undertake an investigation into this matter and indicated that she would actively cooperate with any such investigation. I'll be seeking advice on the most appropriate form of inquiry, and we'll have more to say about that in the coming days.
Well, I'm joined now by the Green co-leader Materia Ture, and what do you make of this? You've obviously been calling for Judith Collins to go for some time now. What do you make of the Prime Minister's move, or Judith Collins' move today? Whoever made it, doesn't really matter.
Well, that's right, whoever made it. Well, the chickens have come home to roost for Judith Collins. She should have been sacked by John Key a long time ago, but what I think is shocking for the public is this pattern of a behaviour of Judith Collins, of abuse of her ministerial position, abuse of her power, abuse of her staff, and I think John Key still has significant questions that he needs to answer about how this has been operating out of his own office as well.
Yeah, because it's important to look at the substantive side of the new matter raised today, which is an all-new one, like we haven't heard before. Another email from the blogger Whale Oil, Judith Collins, blogger from Cameron Slater. Right. We're not sure where the email has come from, whether it's come from Whale Dump or inside the National Party in some senses, but an email from Cameron Slater talking about a campaign essentially against the Chief Executive of the Serious Fraud Office, who Judith Collins was a minister for at that time, and that Judith Collins may well have been aware of this campaign that was essentially coming out of Whale Oil. What does, just with that, it does, the modus operandi does ring true with some of the other allegations, but this is all new. What do you make of that? Well,
insofar as we know what's the content of the email, which is still a bit sketchy at the moment, the worst allegations that relate to her abuse of ministerial staffers is of course the Simon Pleasance case, which John Key did not consider was sufficient to sack her, even though the story was much clearer about her. She admitted to giving Whale Oil his information, private information. She admitted that she did it. She didn't think she'd done anything wrong with doing that. He was then subject to death threats as a result of a campaign against him that she allegedly worked with Whale Oil on. John Key doesn't think that that was sufficient to sack her. This new allegation, which sounds less serious than that first one, is now sufficient. John Key has been under extraordinary public pressure 3 weeks out from an election campaign. That's why he's sacking her. I don't think this is actually about the concerns of the specific allegations. I still don't think he's taking them seriously enough. Yeah,
because you make a good point there, don't you? I mean, this latest allegation, in terms of the nature of it, is at the very least identical, or maybe not as bad as what happened with Simon Pleasance, where there were admissions by Judith Collins, but all of a sudden the Prime Minister decides to act on this one. Now, as I said to you before, we don't know whether the email has come from Whale Dump and been hacked, or has it come from within the National Party, from within the centre-right, as a way of getting rid of Judith Collins? What are your thoughts on that? It could be some sort of move by the National Party itself or its supporters to get rid of her.
It could be. Bronwyn Puller has made a complaint to the Privacy Commissioner. She was at the National Party launch. There may well be people inside National who want to get rid of Judith because she is causing their campaign harm. The National Party campaign is in absolute tatters. I mean, it's just in tatters on the floor. So they'll be very concerned about keeping Judith Collins on, and John Key's failure to take action. Now, he has continually denied the validity of the allegations in Dirty Politics book. This now proves that those allegations have to be taken very seriously, but he's still not doing that. and he's not taking action about the allegations of his own office. John Key still has questions to answer. If this is a leak from inside his own party, we may see more come.
Yeah, I mean, what we're getting at here is this email, is this latest leak some form of excuse that has been made up for the Prime Minister so that he can remove Judith Collins after he had boxed himself into a corner on the other allegations? He's now seen the public pressure is built, and all of a sudden, here you go, here is a nice easy way out. Is that what?
Well, I think he is using this as an excuse because of the public pressure that he's getting 3 weeks out from an election campaign. He has not taken these allegations seriously at all right up until this point. He's backed Judith Collins 100%. Now suddenly they've had a little chat and she's resigned. I think the big issue though is still that there are unanswered allegations about John Key's own office. And until those are effectively dealt with by John Key, there will continue to be scandal around National, around John Key in particular. He won't be able to escape these other allegations that are still floating around.
Yeah, because here we have a situation where he's ignored all of the emails that the book was based on, all of the emails that were leaked. He ignored those, he put those off to one side, didn't want to know about them. But when it suddenly suits him, he's happy to sack her or essentially force her to resign on the basis of an email. Surely now there is some sort of obligation for him to go back to those other emails. I don't think he is going to by the look of things, but you know, what are your thoughts on that?
I think he is obliged to go back and admit that he was wrong not to take the allegations seriously when they first came out, that he was wrong to ignore the implications for his own office and his own staff, and that he now needs to take serious action and investigate, have a proper investigation of his own office. These other investigations of Judith Collins and the allegations about her, they will continue, but there are still unanswered questions about John Key's own office. And for as long as he denies the allegations in Dirty Politics book, the scandal will sit over his head right up until election day.
Yeah, because let's talk about that. And I asked Grant Robertson from Labour this same question. You know, there are a number of inquiries underway. The Greens got some of them underway and talk of an inquiry. Winston Peters said there needs to be a commission of inquiry. What form do you think an inquiry should take place? Now, John Key wants an inquiry as well. I mean, what form do you think, this, in the Greens' view, should this inquiry take?
We think there should be a royal commission, actually, to look at all of the allegations in the book and any new ones that come to light, because there needs to be real power around investigating quite deeply into the Prime Minister's office and into senior Cabinet Ministers' offices, their emails, their communications, their relationships with bloggers, how their staff have been treated and the communications about their staff. So it needs to be a very serious inquiry. If there was one inquiry that covered all of those things, I think that would be wiser for the public. The public want to have some trust rebuilt in the democratic process. The Green Party has said we would have that Royal Commission of Inquiry in order to rebuild the public's trust in their democracy and to make sure that there are recommendations for how to clean up what is clearly a terrible mess that National Party cabinet ministers have created inside the public service.
You know, a Royal Commission of Inquiry, I mean, the Prime Minister obviously is unlikely to do that himself.
He should. This is the difference between a Prime Minister who is just protecting his own patch and campaigning for the election and a Prime Minister who genuinely believes in the public service and the public trust of the voters. If he was a Prime Minister who believed in serving the public, he would have a serious commission of inquiry across all of those allegations so that there was some more trust built with voters. He's refusing to do that because he's just campaigning for the election. He's not behaving like a Prime Minister.
Yeah, so you're talking about a commission of inquiry that looks at, say, for instance, what happened with the SIS email, what happened right through with Judith Collins, Simon Pleasance, through to this latest thing, looking at the whole lot.
Well, that's right. And then there will be genuine recommendations around how to clean up the mess that National Cabinet Ministers have created. You know, there's a lack of public trust now in the government and how it's been operating in the last 6 years, rightly so. There's real concerns for the public service then as to how their people have been treated by this particular government, and there could be some great recommendations as to how a government committed, a new and progressive government committed to genuine democracy, could improve the system that we have so that this kind of mess can never be created by the National Party ever again.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that the system in some ways is allowing this, the system with OIAs and ministerial information, or is it a personal thing, just the people who have been in there?
I think it is an issue for the people who are there who aren't treating their power that they have with integrity, aren't treating the authority that they have been given from the public in a genuine way. I do think there is an issue around the personalities involved, but we need stronger processes, obviously, clearer processes, clearer ways to investigate problems, but that's what a Royal Commission would be able to provide us with.
Yeah, and let's just, as a final question, look at the big picture here. Here we have the government, and a very popular government in terms of the polling analysis, losing its most senior, one of its most senior ministers, very close to an election. What's the political impact here? This is really quite unheard of in some senses.
I think it's unprecedented that a senior cabinet minister would be forced to resign this close to an election campaign. And it's because it's causing disarray amongst national disarray in their campaign, consternation with the public, and I think it's because they have operated like this now for 6 years, thinking that they could get away with it. They can't get away with it any longer.
And in terms of a blow to the Prime Minister, in terms of the way that he defended Judith Collins almost all year on probably close to over 50 occasions, if you count them up, in terms of day-to-day actual being on the defensive because of Judith Collins. What a blow to him after investing so much in the defence to finally have to pull the pin at this late stage.
Yeah, I think it is a blow to him and to his credibility and backing Judith Collins all of this time. But again, there are still unrecognised allegations about John Key's own office and its connection with whale oil. That still hasn't been resolved. He's taken no responsibility for it yet. I think that's still a scandal that is yet to come out. Yeah,
because if you look at it in an evidence-based way, here we have Judith Collins being forced to resign because of a connection with whale oil. Jason Eade, the Prime Minister's former staffer, still on the payroll of the National Party, by the way. He also equal evidence in some senses that he was involved in that accessing of Labour's computer, but nothing has happened to him.
Well, nothing has happened, and that behaviour is arguably unlawful, and John Key seems to have completely dismissed the fact that one of his staff has behaved unlawfully and as part of his job working for John Key. I mean, this is still unresolved allegations that John Key is refusing to deal with. These are still issues that the New Zealand public want answers to, and John Key is going to have to decide if he's going to behave like a Prime Minister and try to rebuild some public trust, or if he's going to continue on the current path, which is just totally disorganised. It's an absolute scandal. His whole campaign is in disarray.
Materia Ture, thank you very much for joining us, the Green co-leader. Now, as you may well have heard, Judith Collins, the Justice Minister, has resigned. The Prime Minister called a special press conference earlier on today. Let's have a look at what the Prime Minister had to say.